The spiritual leader of Tibet, the Dalai Lama, has made a statement. He has said that he prefers living in India and there is no point in returning to China. His statement comes days after tensions escalated in Tawang after China provoked India yet again. Let me give you a little background. The Dalai Lama fled to India on March 19th in 1955 disguised as a soldier. The 23-year-old monk escaped from his palace in Lhasa, and the reason behind this was China. Tibet had been suffering under China's anti-religious legislation, which considered Tibet as its own territory. The People's Liberation Army was after the Dalai Lama, and when he fled, a brutal crackdown began. Since then, China has time and again tried to meddle in Tibetan affairs, especially the religious ones. Let me explain how. Tibetan Buddhists of the Gelug tradition believe that the Dalai Lama can reincarnate, that he has control over his rebirth and can even choose the body in which he will be reincarnated. The previous Dalai Lama died in 1933, but instead of exiting the circle of life and death, he is believed to have been reborn as Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, who has now become a global icon. When Tenzin Gyatso dies, Tibetan Buddhists believe that he will reincarnate as a child somewhere on earth, but China wants to meddle and dictate. The atheist regime says it will appoint its own Dalai Lama. In 2011, the Chinese Foreign Ministry declared that only the Beijing government can declare the next Dalai Lama and that no other succession candidate should be given any identification. Just look at the irony here. A country that doesn't even believe in religion wants to play a role in the afterlife and reincarnation of a religious figure. That's not all. China took a key spiritual figure into its custody. This time, it was a 6-year-old boy. I'm talking about the Pancham Lama, who is responsible for finding the reincarnated Dalai Lama. That's the belief. He is the second most important figure in Tibetan Buddhism and is appointed by the Dalai Lama himself. The current Dalai Lama chose a 6-year-old boy as the Pancham Lama in May of 1995, but China rejected the appointment, and a few days later, the Pancham Lama disappeared. 27 years on, China says the boy is leading a normal life as a Chinese citizen and that he and his family don't wish to be disturbed. His whereabouts have not been disclosed. Now, China wishes to do the same with the Dalai Lama. They want to appoint a duplicate who is favorable to the regime, the Chinese regime. But the Dalai Lama has said that he will not let that happen. He says he is the final authority and that Chinese communists, out of everyone, will not get a say in this. In the history of Tibetan Buddhism, there have been a total of 14 Dalai Lamas. They started off as spiritual leaders in the 15th century. By the 17th century, they became political leaders. All of them are believed to have reincarnated and discovered with the help of the Pancham Lama. Now, whatever you believe is your choice, but tonight my question is this. Does China really have the authority to meddle with this age-old tradition? Be it geopolitics or religion, the communist regime has always tried to impose its principles and take what doesn't rightfully belong to it, usurp it. On the other hand, there's India, a country which has protected Tibetan Buddhists, a country the Dalai Lama calls home. So it does make sense for him to believe that he will be reincarnated here, and I'm not the one who is saying this. This is what many Tibetan Buddhists believe. The Indian Himalayan Council of Nalanda Buddhist tradition is holding a meeting in Delhi, and our principal correspondent, Siddhant Sibyl, spoke to some of the Tibetan monks for their take on the story. Listen in.
In the first governing council meeting, there was a discussion, but the organization had not come up with a resolution on the issue of reincarnation. So our resolution, as far as this organization is concerned on the reincarnation of His Holiness, is that, you know, the issue of reincarnation of His Holiness Dalai Lama is purely a religious and cultural issue. And then, you know, no other authority has any authority to, you know, interfere with the system of reincarnation. Even if it is done on a political ground, that has no recognition as far as the importance of the institution is concerned. So it is purely a religion and cultural process. We should not be having interference from any corner. Even if there is interference, that will not be accepted.
The Dalai Lama has said that he will live to the age of 113 and hinted that his successor would be a woman. Or perhaps succession planning isn't at the top of the agenda as of now. But when it will be, what will be China's reaction? Will it impose its own ideology on the Tibetan culture? Will it perhaps choose a Dalai Lama of its own? Only time will tell. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.